That de-escalated quickly. All right, burning questions on the AFC East. Bartholomew, Buffalo. Is Josh Allen going to somehow be better without his longtime number one receiver, Stephon Diggs?
Not at all, but I think they're going to protect Josh Allen from himself by running the ball and being balanced, which is going to expose him less for all those turnovers, fumbles, and interceptions that he's had. So I think it can be addition by subtraction, that they're going to be more balanced. But without Milano, I don't know if you can play complementary football. You may have to get in shootouts because your defense isn't going to be as good.
Graziano, let's go to New England. We saw them last night, certainly in a rebuilding situation. Do they figure maybe to be the worst team in the league?
Yeah, I think it's possible for sure. Look, offensively, they're limited in terms of their skill positions, in terms of the line. Defensively, where they thought they were going to be great, they traded Judon. They might be without Christian Barmore for the year. The schedule, Greeny, they got to play the Bengals, the Seahawks, the 49ers just in September. It's rough. Hembo said their FPI 3-point underdogs are worse in every game right now.
We'll see what they're able to get done. Mike T, down there in Florida, is this the year Tua and the Dolphins win a playoff game?
They absolutely can, Greeny. To Tua's credit, he answered the bell last year, started all 17 games, but here's where they have to improve. He has to play better in December and January, where his QBR under Mike McDaniel is 43. In September, it's 83. So if they can get a home playoff game and not go on the road to Buffalo or Kansas City, they have a real chance to win a playoff game.
All right, and then Bart, I'll come back to you. We asked you about one of your former teams earlier, the Ravens. Here's your other. Do the Jets need that guy, who is a 4-time MVP, to play like an MVP in order to get to the Super Bowl?
Not at all. I mean, we can remember the late, Peyton Manning. We can remember John Elway. And, well, I'm not trying to, pass
Peyton
on.
Manning?
Yes, he's not the late Peyton.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. He's still very much alive. He's still very much alive.
I think you mean later in his career, Peyton Manning.
Yes. Let me rephrase that. But they just need Aaron Rodgers, to play behind that great defense,
yes,
and the great running backs that he has. I think they only need him to be special at times. One thing I know about Aaron Rodgers, he's not going to come up short against Patrick Mahomes. We've seen great quarterbacks come up small. We see Lamar Jackson not look like Lamar Jackson against Patrick Mahomes. We've seen Josh Allen as well. I don't think that Joe Burrow or Aaron Rodgers will come up short. It's okay. He's still alive. I just say.
He did a great job. He could have fallen apart like we did.
No, yes, I couldn't go on. I knew what you meant. Late in his career. The later Peyton Manning.
The older Peyton Manning.
So now, what
about the Monday night telecast?
What do we expect from the late Aaron Rodgers here? He's 40 coming off an injury. Well, see, here's why I'm so encouraged. Because to me, the answer to that question is no. The Jets don't need Aaron Rodgers to be the best quarterback in the NFL. The Jets won 7 games with the worst quarterback in the NFL last year. If Aaron Rodgers is merely a good quarterback, which you have to assume he's capable of being, and God help us if he's better than that,
right,
then I think that automatically elevates them to a playoff team, and then who knows where it goes from there. Mike T.
Greedy, I totally agree, and I was concerned that if I would denigrate Aaron Rodgers, you couldn't put me in the corner remotely, so right. I was trying to figure out how I was going to how to survive that. But in all seriousness, I do think if we're talking about Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and a really good front seven that could be even better with Hassan Reddick, we're talking about a really good Jet roster, a deeper roster. If you go back a year ago, obviously we know about Aaron Rodgers, but they also struggled up front with injuries. And credit Joe Douglas. Not only do they get Tyron Smith, they draft Fashanu in the first round. So this is a much deeper team, a much more complete team. I agree with you. If Aaron Rodgers is B or better, this is a 10-win team.
Hey, he just mentioned Hassan Reddick. I mean, is there
if they could get a guy like that, they'd be really good.
Anything?
No. I mean, look, it's a standoff, right? Like, they won't give him a new deal unless he comes to camp. He won't come to camp without a new deal. Like, somebody's going to have to give at some point. It's probably going to have to be the team.
Who's that somebody going to be? I mean, what in the wide world of sports is going on here?
I mean, listen, I don't know, but for all the people that made fun of the Jets, we just watched Atlanta do the same exact thing, 3rd-round draft pick, and Judon doesn't have a new deal. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think cooler heads will prevail. I think they'll get him done. At some point, these fines will become unable to absorb when you think about $700,000. Remember, this is $700,000, not after, this is not post-tax money. This is real money.
No, I mean, at some point, he's going to owe them money to play this season.
Right.
He's going to wind up having accumulated more fines than his salary actually adds up to. The whole thing is just a mess. At any rate, Matt, put the picks up there. We asked everybody who's going to win the AFC East, and we are split down the middle. Graziano, despite all those defensive injuries, you're still on Buffalo.
I think there are major question marks with all these teams, but with Buffalo, we have seen a coaching staff that has shown an ability to kind of answer its questions as the season goes along, get the team into the playoffs. We haven't seen Miami win this division. We haven't seen this Jets coaching staff manage through the ups and downs of a season and get them into the postseason. We haven't seen it yet, and I think I have more trust in the people running the Bills right now until I see it from somebody else.
Can I ask you who has the best roster in this division?
Who's the best roster in the division? It's probably the Jets.
I mean, they just lost Matt Milano, and that's what you went with? You too, Mike T? How dare you?
Well, they lost Matt Milano in the middle of the season last year, and they still won the division.
Yeah, but that was with Hyde and Poyer still there.
Quick final word, Tannenbaum, go.
Yeah, I think Sean McDermott gave us the answers to the test last year. 6-1 when they make the coordinator change, averaged 36 rushing attempts per game. Look for James Cook to have a massive year.
Cowboys quarterback, we all know the story. Entering the final year of his deal, his cap hit is over $55 million. The negotiations, I think we've forgotten sometimes that they are ongoing. But he reminded us of that yesterday, and he sounded pretty optimistic.
I'm happy where I am right now, and that's really all my focus is. And yeah, I mean, as I said, I enjoy being a Cowboy 1,000%. Enjoy living in Dallas, enjoy everything about it. But this is a business, so conversations are going well. Hoping it gets done now, hoping it gets done in a couple of weeks during the season or whenever it happens. I just know conversations are on the right way.
All right, Dan, so, you know, I'm not an insider. You are. But I just listen to the things that people say. And maybe I'm very gullible, and maybe he's a very good actor. But that sounded to me like a man who thinks there is a real chance, something I have basically discounted as a possibility, a real chance they get a deal done before this season starts.
I think there's a real chance, but there's also, I think, just as real a chance that they don't, that he gets to free agency next spring. And I think people have to understand that. Like, he doesn't have to do a deal unless and until he gets every single thing he wants. They're not allowed to franchise him. Like, he has the leverage. We've been over this and over this. If he wants to stay and, you know, he's willing to meet them, I don't know, say halfway, but somewhere along the way, then absolutely a deal could get done this offseason or, as he mentions, during the season. And neither side rules that out. But, yeah, I think you're listening to a guy who's saying the right things, who I think if there is a split, I think the Cowboys and Dak Prescott will each want to make sure that the fans don't think it was them that was at fault, right? So I think, you know, I want to be here. He's saying the right things. But, yeah, it's possible. They have talked since training camp started. There are ongoing discussions, just as there are with CeeDee Lamb. So, yeah, it wouldn't be the most shocking thing at all.
Let me get Tannenbaum in on this, because, again, for those who don't know, Mike T was a general manager in 2 different places. You've lived these situations from the inside, maybe not exactly this one, because there's never been one exactly like this one, a quarterback of this level who is this tantalizingly close to unrestricted free agency. When you hear Dak say things like that, does it make your mind spin a little bit?
It sure does. And if I was his teammate, I would be mad at him because out of $55 million cap number, Greeny, that's 22% of the cap. And we saw really good players, Tyron Smith, Tony Pollard leave. We had a really good team a year ago. So as the quarterback and the leader that's on the field, off the field from a salary cap standpoint, there should be a massive sense of urgency on both sides. And when we look at it from the Dallas standpoint, look, we can say a lot of things about Jerry Jones, but he's smart and strategic. I was surprised, even if it was someone like Spencer Rattler, second or third round, that they didn't draft a quarterback, because they really don't have leverage when we're talking about unfettered free agency for a quarterback that was second in the league in MVP voting, can't be franchised, can't be traded. And right now the Cowboys have 0 options.
And has been discussed ad nauseum. They also don't have CeeDee Lamb under contract. But look who we have, ladies and gentlemen. The one, the only Booger McFarland has gotten up early with us this morning from his palatial estate down there in Tampa, Florida. So, Booger, you're hearing the conversation here. It's all about the Cowboys, as it so frequently is. The Dak situation, not resolved and maybe not getting any closer to it. We'll see. The CeeDee Lamb situation, not resolved, and there doesn't seem to be an obvious explanation for that. How do you see it right now, big fella?
Well, good morning, guys. Greeny, Bart, Dan. I think that the whole Dak Prescott situation is going to linger into next season or into the offseason. I don't see a situation where the Cowboys are going to be willing to go to the 55 plus $60 million a year range, nor if you're Dak Prescott, really do you want to, because I think it behooves Dak to become an unrestricted free agent where he can really see what his true value is. As far as the CD Lamb of it all, I think the blueprint is kind of laid. I'm really not sure why CD Lamb hasn't got paid. Like, the money is there. All the wide receiver contracts have gotten done. Like, we all could sit down in the conference room and do this contract in like 5 minutes. So I foresee him getting a new contract before he steps on the football field, or I think CD Lamb has the resolve where he just won't show up. So Dak will probably have to wait till the offseason and have a great big month of shows. Where's Dak going to go? Are the Cowboys going to pay him $60 million? But I think the CD Lamb of it all is going to get resolved. I'll tell you the most surprising thing, though, guys, is the Micah Parsons. Like, we've talked a lot about CD Lamb, a lot about the Cowboys, but the Micah Parsons of it all has kind of slid to the side. And I don't think there's any shape, way, or form we can see Micah Parsons not being a Dallas Cowboy. So why you wouldn't take care of CD and take care of Micah, I really don't know what Steven and Jerry are doing right now.
See, that's such an interesting part of this to me. I'm glad he took us there. Because the way sometimes I feel like we talk about things like all football fans know them. When you're drafted in the first round, you get a 4-year deal, and then the team has a 5th-year option. So Micah Parsons falls in that category. Jamar Chase falls in that category. They were drafted in the same year. That's my point. But CD Lamb is a year ahead of them. Right. CD Lamb, Justin Jefferson, those guys are going into the 5th-year option. That's when the team knows, look, we got to get this deal done now, or they're going to be able to walk. Jamar Chase, Micah Parsons, 2 of the very best players in the league who are a year before that. It seems to me that if I am as certain about those players being a part of my future as I would have to believe they are in Cincinnati and Dallas, I would want to lock them up now because, as we have seen, the price just keeps going up. If they had locked up CD Lamb at last year's wide receiver numbers, Dan, they would have saved themselves a fortune.
There's definitely an advantage to be had in knowing when to go to your players early for an extension. There's no question about that. We see that's one of the things that Howie Roseman in Philadelphia gets so much credit for doing over and over and over again. Until this offseason, we really hadn't seen a lot of guys, non-quarterbacks, after year 3 get extensions. And to piggyback on what you're saying, so people know, you're not allowed under the CBA to negotiate an extension with a player until he's played 3 years in the league, a drafted player. So I think they're at a point, Dallas is with Micah Parsons, where they feel like they can put that on the back burner because they have time, because they have the option, the franchise tag available to them, and work on these other big deals. But you're absolutely right. If they're 100% certain he's going to be there, there's some benefit to be had to go into him now because the price is not going to go down.
You know, when you think about Jerry Jones and Mike Brown, they're from the old school. They haven't hit the refresh button about how organizations operate now in this new NFL. But Jerry has always gotten everybody that he's wanted signed. So that's why I'm not worried about Dak Prescott, because at the end of the day, we can be concerned with everything that's going on. He'll get them done. You know, he's just trying to find a way to get leverage. Jerry likes to have leverage, which he has none. He gave it away in the last negotiation.
Go ahead, Booger.
But Bart, here's the thing about it. If Dak Prescott reaches the end of this season, he will be an unrestricted free agent. They can't franchise him, okay, because that's in the contract. Like, they can't franchise him. So Jerry has zero control. So to your point that Jerry always gets who he wants, that's when Jerry has control. Jerry will legitimately have zero control if the season ends and Dak Prescott doesn't have a new contract, because Dak Prescott will be in control. So that's where I think if you're Jerry, you're playing this all wrong. And you could say, okay, well, Jerry can offer him $65 a year. But yes, at what cost? Is Jerry willing to go to an absurd number to keep Dak Prescott when you could have done the deal right now? I think, Dan, everyone agrees, even Mike T. By the way, good morning, Mike T. He could have done this deal for $58, $60 million a year right now, and this would be done. So I'm really not sure what Jerry's doing right now, because he's legitimately losing more control by the day.
But it's not like Dak is not without risk, right? Now, we know that we've seen Dak get injured and still got his money. But, you know, what happens if they go and they don't perform well and they're out in the first round, or they struggle to make the playoffs, or if they don't make the playoffs? I think when Jerry said he's all in, I think he's saying he's all in with this regime. And if it doesn't go well, Mike McCarthy may be going. You have to reassess, are you going to build with Dak Prescott, or are you going to start over and tear it down? Because this is an organization that found Dak Prescott in the 4th round, that found Tony Romo. Yeah. So they've had success with non-first-round draft picks. You got Shedeur Sanders coming out. Who knows? Maybe Primetime will be the next coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, don't say that. I'm the one who brought that up yesterday. Everyone yelled at me. Mike T, put a finishing touch on this because it's really your area.
Yeah, what would scare me to death if I'm Jerry Jones or Mike Brown is what Jalen Ramsey did in Jacksonville. That hold-in, had the back issue, quote-unquote, got traded to the Rams, got paid. Micah Parsons and Jamar Chase are good enough players. They could pull that off as well. Jamar Chase has a practice. Micah Parsons has. That is the great equalizer. Not a lot of players could pull it off, but Micah Parsons and Jamar Chase could.
All right, we'll see. It is a changing and evolving circumstance with the way these contracts work, and the Cowboys so far seem to be a little bit behind it.